One of the difficult problems we face as Jews and fellow travelers is the apparent silence of God. We just sat here for about 30 minutes, praying, reciting, singing. We addressed God over and over again. Did anything happen? Did anything change? Did God respond to us in any way? I suspect that some of us didn't even think about it. We like coming to our temple because of the singing or because of the sense of community, and both are great reasons to be here. Maybe we like the sounds of the Hebrew and the comfortable repetition of familiar prayers. It makes us feel nostalgic, maybe even nostalgic for something we never experienced. Nonetheless, during services, it may seem that feeling God's presence wasn't even on God's agenda. I suspect that some of us did hear something like the still small voice that the prophet Elijah heard. The exact quote from the book of Kings is, "After the fire, a voice of thin silence." I love that. It's not a still small voice, literally. It's a voice of thin silence. God can be a flaming forest. God can also take the form of the fresh smell of grass after the storm. Some of us did gain a new awareness of how small actions can reveal something bigger and beyond ourselves. For others, not so much. I suspect that some of us did not hear an answer. We pray and we want nothing more than a response. It would make things better. It would make life easier. We return to the temple hoping that this will be the time. What do we hear? Nothing, nada, nix, nine, crickets. So tonight I want to offer a few ways out of this silence, or at least a few ways to walk with it. One comes from the pen of an unlikely and reluctant holy man, Chaim Nachman Bialik, the national poet of the state of Israel. Bialik was born and raised in Ukraine by his grandfather. He was educated in Talmudic studies at the Volozhin Yeshiva in Lithuania, but also had a strong desire to learn European literature. He's a lost breed. There were these guys in the late 19th century or the late 20th century who were absolute masters of Talmudic learning and then moved over and got PhDs and did a lot of secular learning in philosophy or in literature or something of the sort. And we just don't have those guys anymore. It's a sad loss. Bialik lived successively in these two worlds, the world of traditional Jewish study and the world also of European literature. He also abandoned his religious commitment to Judaism along the way. He became an agnostic. He no longer believed in God and took a skeptical attitude to the beliefs of traditional Judaism while remaining a committed cultural Jew. That's why the poem I'm about to read is all the more powerful. It comes from the pen of a skeptic. It comes from the mind of a man who expects God's silence, yet it profoundly connects to the divine despite its expectations. I'm going to read a short piece of it. I know a forest, and in that forest, I know a hidden pool. In the denseness of the wood, isolated from the world, in the shades of a lofty oak, blessed by light and accustomed to storm, alone she dreams of an inverted world and spawns secretly her golden fish, but no one knows what is in her heart. So for Bialik, the agnostic, nature provided a path out of silence. He sits in this forest, or at least I imagine him praying, looking for an answer, reaching with an open hand. He receives another question: where are you? The natural world asks the poet. In doing so, nature enacts a process where he discovers the silent language of God, the presence of something greater than himself in everyday life. We feel it in nature. We feel it in the words of the poet and the brush of the painter. We feel it in our deepest relationships. We feel it when we dance. We feel it when we fall in love. And these small things can be God's answer. I was just reading in a mimer and a mar and an oral teaching of the Rebbe Rashab. Those who have been here for months know that I keep on bringing up the Rashab. I've been reading him for a few months now. The more we become aware that the small things in our environment are deeply connected to something greater than ourselves, to God, the more we become aware that the most mundane aspects of our life, like eating and learning and earning a livelihood, are avenues to spiritual connection. The more we become aware of the wonder of everyday life, the more we are likely to hear God's answers. So how do we begin this process? We begin. There isn't a perfect time. If we wait for the perfect time, we'll never do it. The Rashab says that the time for awareness is now. Once we start to recognize the wonder of the world, that recognition can become a continual practice, even a continual effort. Becoming more aware of the world around us is not easy. And this way of approaching life, I will admit, is not for everyone. Heightened awareness and the experience that drives it won't happen for some people. Try as we will, experiencing God does not always come easily. For others, the way to encounter God is to feel that there is some kind of relationship between the people around us and us. Maybe, just maybe, God has not so much disappeared, has encountered a blockage. And the way we open up that dam is through human relationships. Martin Buber wrestled with this way of experiencing God's silence. For Buber, the problem is not that God has disappeared, but that something has come between humanity and the divine presence. And he compared the situation to an eclipse. During an eclipse, the sun continues to exist and continues to shine, but its light is temporarily obscured from view. And human beings often interpret this darkness as absence, when it is in fact concealment. We can reveal what is concealed. No eclipse is permanent. Every authentic encounter between two human beings has the potential to break through the darkness. God is found not through abstract ideas or metaphysical proofs, according to Buber, but in the living reality of relationship. The silence of God is not a sign that God is withdrawn. It is an invitation for human beings to recover the capacity to listen to one another and to show kindness to one another. So we return to Elijah's still small voice, to that thin silence. But this time, it's the whisper of human connection. Maybe the way out of the apparent silence of God is to turn the original question, "Where are you, God?" on its head. And instead of asking God, "Where are you?" we ask ourselves, "Where am I?" Shabbat Shalom.